Alright, so in this video I just want to quickly walk you through the differences between the reishi mushroom spore powder and the extract of the reishi mushroom fruiting body, both of which are available on hyperionherbs.com, of course. So first thing that I want to say is kind of why I avoided selling the spore powder to begin with, because I already sell the fruiting body mushroom extract and the spore oil, so the oil pressed out of the mushroom spores itself. So basically what ends up happening is a question I've gotten dozens of times over the last couple of weeks is, what's the difference between the spore powder and the mushroom extract? Which one should I take and why? So long story short, in my opinion, they're both awesome. They're both good, they're both beneficial, and they will both do a lot of great things in the body. And I personally use both, and I personally have used both quite a lot. I kind of just go back and forth depending on whatever sounds good or fits my fancy at that time. So one of the biggest differences is, first off, obviously understanding that the fruiting body extract is from the actual mushroom itself, which has been grown on hardwood and grown organically and allowed to actually go through its full life cycle. So what happens is, once that mushroom reaches maturity, it produces seeds to reproduce itself, i.e. spores. So once that happens, then we know that the mushroom is actually mature and it's reached its maximum potency. So generally, a few things can happen. The spores can be harvested off of that, and then that can be turned into its own product, or the mushrooms can just be harvested and go straight to extraction. So even if you're buying the fruiting body extract, there's still a little bit of spores in there just because of they're already on the mushroom itself. And then the spore powder is basically, they'll harvest the spores off of the mushroom, and then the spores are put through this process which basically cracks the cell wall, which then makes them way more absorbable by our body. Without that process, yes, we could take it, we could consume it, but it wouldn't necessarily be that absorbable or that effective. So basically, one is actually of the fruiting body, and the other is the seed or the reproductive essence that fruiting body is trying to produce to reproduce itself. So the major difference in terms of constituents would be that the fruiting body would have a much richer concentration of beta-glucans and polysaccharides, which are famous for their amino modulating properties and for doing many other amazing things in the body. When you get the spore powder, you're going to get a higher concentration of triterpenes and a much lower concentration of the beta-glucans and polysaccharides, just because of the nature of what it is. So you're going to get more triterpenes plus more of the ganoderic acids and all of the oils, and many of the other of the micronutrient compounds and fibers and other things like that. So it's almost more, it's nutritive in a way, it's food in a way, and it has still a lot of amino benefits, but just in a slightly different way, from a slightly different profile and family of constituents. Because let's say the fruiting body extract might have 12 to 15% polysaccharides and 15% beta-glucans and then 2% triterpenes. The spores will usually have about 3 to 4% triterpenes and like 1 or 2% polysaccharides, but it'll have a lot of other things going on as well. That's one way to look at it. I personally don't go too far down that rabbit hole because I don't personally find myself that interested in chemistry or nerding out on isolated mechanistic compounds. I like reishi for what it is and for what it does, and I've taken it for well over a decade, so I'm familiar with what it can do, and I think all the products from reishi are good and can be good, so I like to take them. And that's kind of my overly simplistic way of looking at it on a personal level, which is why I go back and forth between the spore powder and the mushroom extract. So ultimately, which one should you take? Both are great. It kind of just depends on what you want and what your budget is. If you're a reishi nerd like me, then I would recommend taking both of them at some point. If you're new to reishi, then perhaps I would probably start with, I don't know, maybe the spore powder, just for the simple reason that it's a little bit cheaper and it's not as bitter as the mushroom extract can be. That's pretty much the only thing. It's kind of like we're dealing with two things that are really, really good and really beneficial and from the same amazing plant. And it's kind of like, which one should I take? It's like, should I drink water or should I exercise? Well, you should probably do both. Okay, but how much of each one? Enough. That's going to be good for your health. So anyways, hopefully that gives you some insight or a little bit more clarity, or I don't know, maybe it's just more confusing on which one you should take and what some of the differences are. But hopefully that's been helpful. And again, you can check out both on hyperionherbs.com, or have the mushroom spore powder, the mushroom extract, and the reishi spore oil. And I guess the last thing that comes up as well is people are like, how much should I take? How should I take it? And can I combine it? So basically the last question first is that mostly all the products that I sell on my website can be combined and mixed and matched pretty much without any issue or problem. And so that's partially also when I'm sourcing and selling things, I'm thinking about how they fit into the larger context of the things I'm selling as well. So you can definitely mix the spore powder with anything, with it, whether it's the reishi extract or the cordyceps or chaga or lion's mane. And actually that sounds really good. Like just talking about it, I really want to I really want to do that now. And then how much to take for the spore powder? It's, I would say, up to a tablespoon if you really want to go crazy with it, but generally 1 to 2 teaspoons is going to be enough, but definitely starting with a half a teaspoon. And again, just mixing it with hot water, mixing it in a blended drink. Like I have a little bit of a blended drink that I made this morning with some lion's mane and a few other herbs in it. It's quite good. Now, one thing that came up is I'll say for myself that I'll take a couple teaspoons. And then I had some clients that were like, oh, I heard you say that, so I did it. And I didn't feel that good. And I'm like, well, you got to work up to that. And that's something that I've gone over with a few clients where they start taking a product and they get a reaction. And they're kind of like, I don't know, what's up with this reaction? And so I'm like, always start off with way less and then work your way up. And 99% of the time when they do that, the results are totally positive and they feel great. So it's just a caveat and something always important to keep in mind is starting off with less and working your way up over time. That's generally how I'll do things. I know in the past, maybe 6 years ago or 7 years ago when I made videos, I was chugging entire bottles of things, mostly just kind of as clickbait, but also just as an experiment. But I don't really recommend that. I don't think it's that healthy or sustainable. So that's just kind of a side caveat. But anyways, hopefully this answers your questions. Remember to check out hyperionherbs.com, and I will talk to you soon. I gotta remember how this live stream